Maybe.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trey Strelko, joined by Adam Eaton. Welcome in to Sons of UCF Live. Adam, hello. How are you?
Trace, greetings. I am good. I had a long day of work travel, but I'm better now. I'm back in front of you and the rest of Night Nation, so couldn't be better than I am right now.
Well, that is good to hear. Good trip, successful trip.
Yeah, I spent some time in Newark, in New Jersey. It's always a good time in Newark.
Say no more.
Say no more.
I saw you got a shout out from
did
the
make a
airport
friend.
people.
Yeah. Listen, look, everyone's job is important. Don't get me wrong. But how do you get the job as the Newark Airport Terminal A social media account handler? That's a really niche. That's a really niche job. I got to tell you that.
That's I like that. That's a good job.
It's not bad. You can't beat it. I'm sure. Hopefully, it has benefits.
I got to tell you, I'm not having a good contact lens day. I don't know if they need to be replaced. I don't know if I didn't clean them properly. It's just a little squishy in the eye.
Are you one of these guys that follows? Do you follow the rules where, like, after 30 days, throw them out? Or are you?
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hold on to a contact for like months. Maybe that's not good.
I think it's because I had a meeting, and then after that, and then I got home, right, and I closed my eyes for about 20 minutes, and I think they kind of just fixed onto my eyes, so I can't get them to move around the way they should. But this is really more information.
This is way more than you need. Programming.
Yeah, now we've played What's in the Box off the top.
Of the show. We still got our friend here, and our friend Matthew Turman is in the chat again tonight. So everybody, say hi to Matthew. He'll be running the chat tonight. So be nice to him.
Speaking of Mr. Matt Dolan usually on Thursdays posts how many weeks until the start of the season. I did not see that post, but I did the math. 26 weeks until the start of the 2025 UCF football season. But at Fifth Quarter UCF, always updating daily, 182 days. We turn our focus to defense. And I thought it was interesting, the combine going on, and Mac McWilliams, I don't know, a name that we didn't seem to talk a lot about during the past season. He pointed out Jason Johnson as someone that maybe we should keep an eye on. You feel better about the defense than you do the offense, or are we still at the same point where we don't know anything?
We're a big, giant question mark, Trace. Again, I think you have more returners on defense that you think can probably contribute when you think about the defensive line. Malachi Lawrence, Nigel Lee Kelly, John Walker coming back. Yeah, Jason Johnson coming back is big. The Henderson twins. So there's more names that we're used to. But again, we haven't really seen a unit on the defensive side really gel together and be a formidable unit. So I don't know anything at this point. Like, who are our linebackers? Who's our cornerbacks? There was an article someone posted, and I think it's The Athletic, and a rival talent evaluator said he was shocked by UCF's portal additions. They went after a lot of cornerbacks. So who's playing corner? I don't really know. So everything is a big, giant question mark to me until we start putting the ball down.
Yeah, I've been rolling out polls, and we were going position by position, and we kind of got sidetracked by Ticketgate. That subsided a bit during this week. Well, I don't know. You tried to rehash it during the newsletter. And
that's just a coincidence.
But I thought it was, boy, I'll tell you what, this fan base, it really just does not want to spend any time at all looking back at all on that 2024 season. I asked final grade on the defensive line, 50% C, 30% D or F. That's 80% C, D, or F. Linebackers, that was like 80% D, C, D, or F. And secondary, that was 83%. Surly bunch. Actually, I thought the defense was better, right? I didn't think the 4 and 8 was primarily because of the defense where a year earlier, they got run over by everybody, it seemed, week in and week out.
It's interesting. I think the D line was one that really kind of was interesting to me because going into the season, I think we all thought this would be the strengths of UCF's defense, right? It was that front four, and they'd have the ability to stop the run, and they'd do a much better job. And I think that score there is probably indicative of the fact that unit did not play as well as maybe we hoped they would. Linebacker doesn't surprise me. I think that's been an ongoing issue at UCF for a while. Secondary was interesting. I mean, I do think there were times you talked about Mac McWilliams. It's so hard, just in my naked eye, naive football opinion, to evaluate cornerbacks and defensive backs because you don't see them on every play. The camera's not positioned on them. Was the ball not thrown there because they had great coverage or because someone else was more open? So it's really tough, I think, to evaluate the secondary. I think obviously there are a couple plays that come to mind. Colorado burned us deep a few different times. And so there's some plays that come to mind that make you scratch your head secondary wise. But on a 4-8 football team, Trace, I'm not surprised that anything doesn't rise above the grade of a C in any particular area.
Yeah. After the 2023 season, I really did some reflection on, do I contribute in the various platforms to pumping up things, getting excited?
Pretty much all your fault. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, how do you evaluate this fairly? Right. We don't want to be negative week in and week out. We bring coach on and you got to have some optimism. Right. But I really thought about it. And tried to temper that throughout 2024. And I actually kind of feel like we're all going to be at that tempering expectations stage because there are so many new faces. We don't know anything. We're not going to see much when spring camp opens up. We believe rumors that's March 11th. Earlier talk may have been March 4, but it looks like it's going to be March 11th. Nothing confirmed from UCF, but we're on the cusp of that. And I think everybody's in the same boat. I know there's going to be people that 9-3, 8-4, and alike, but I think expectations are very tempered, and Scott Frost was very wise to set that tone off the top at his opening presser.
Yeah, I think we all learned a hard lesson last year, which is let's let the games play out a little bit, and games aren't played on paper, right? They're played inside TV sets. So let's see what happens before we kind of anoint certain things a certain way. And it was a good lesson, I think, for a lot of us. I'm as guilty of this as you are, right? We heard all off season, KJ's the best fit for this offense. You have two, 1,000-yard running backs and Penny Boone and RJ Harvey. Who's gonna stop, Kobe Hudson, Xavier Townsend's gonna break out. Like, we bought into all that. And the reality was it just wasn't, it wasn't what we thought it was. So I think that's the challenge for us is, tempering your expectations. I think last year we got a good slap on the hand for not maybe taking things a little bit slower. And again, I said this at the time, I'll say this again. When a coach gets up in front of his new fan base, in this case, Scott Frost's second new fan base, for the first time, the word you always hear in a press conference is championships. We're going to win championships around here. We're going to be a championship coach. You didn't hear Scott Frost say that. And I think that was super intentional on his part because he recognizes that there's a long runway here. And the old coach speak of, we're going to win championships here. You didn't hear that from Scott Frost. I do think that is calculated. And I do think that is helping to maybe stoke some of the expectations of the fan base, which maybe sets you up to have one of those surprising years where people are surprised by what UCF can do.
Now, here we go. Here's my but a healthy John Walker does give me some optimism on the defensive side of the ball and defensive line.
Yeah, look, I think the D line again could be really good again this year. I hate to do this again, but Malachi Lawrence coming back, John Walker, Horace Lockett from Georgia Tech, Nigel Kelly coming back. He was a name a lot of people were interested in the portal. He comes back to UCF, so they have some dudes on that front four again. Now I know the defense may shift a little bit here with the new coaching staff, so it'll be a 3-down lineman, a 4-down lineman. I don't think they've declared that just yet, right? But you've got some big guys up front that if you can stay healthy, have some rotation, I think you have some possibilities there. But again, check back from the tape a year ago at this time, I said the exact same thing. So what do I know?
Yeah. A couple weeks back, half a dozen media members had opportunity to speak with Coach Frost again, that first time since the December presser as well. Every assistant coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and the strategy for our colleagues in the media was just to get all that stuff out there or drib it out. And on the dribbing it out, we're now primed for that strategy going into next week and timing it out just ahead of the opening of what we believe will be the opening of spring camp.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of clips that we posted. I think I've had a clip from every coach now, just a 30-second sound bites of some stuff that just to kind of get you introduced to the staff so you kind of know who they are and a little bit about the culture they want to build and sort of what they're about. So you've seen some of those on our social media. I'll repost a lot of those. Full interviews are coming up sometime next week. I'll have those released for you. But you saw some really interesting commentary. And you saw even our first guest tonight commented on one of those coaches and kind of talked about, what he thinks he brings to UCF. So I think there's certainly some room for optimism with the staff, but again, still a lot of time to be made.
Yeah, let's talk about Scott Frost and this coaching staff with Rini Angolia, ESPN college football analyst, good enough to join us again on Sons of UCF Live. Rini, I owe you an apology right off the top, and it's this. I never introduce you as UMass Football Hall of Famer.
Wow.
Rini and goal, yeah. And I feel like I have slighted you on previous appearances, and for that I apologize.
It's quite all right. It's that you sound so. My parents are still alive. God bless them. I love them. So they, my mom always watches, and sometimes if I don't have my regular play-by-play partner, I get a new one and they introduce me different. She always gets mad. They don't say your credentials. I'm like, it's okay, Mom. You don't. They don't have to. It's okay.
Well, I apologize to your mom too for
Yes.
previous appearances on Sons of
All
UCF.
right.
Welcome back. So when that news broke, Scott Frost back to UCF. What's your first reaction when you hear that?
It's the new world of college football, right? Because he's not the only one. I mean, Rich Rodriguez goes to West Virginia. It's a, I don't want to say crazy. It's just a different time in college football that right, wrong, or indifferent, it is what it is. And we all have to adjust and get used to it because it's not changing. So did it surprise me? Not really. I mean, I think this is pretty well known. And obviously we're going to talk about Mike Dawson, the defensive line coach and the defensive run game coordinator, I believe. They loved when they were here the first time, and Mike was one of the guys with Coach Frost the first go around. They loved UCF. They loved Orlando. They did not want to leave. But think about it. You're in a time where UCF was in the American. They're in a Group of 5 conference. Nebraska comes calling, right? Scott Frost is a legend there. He gets asked by his former coach, come back. The money is, ridiculously more. It all aligned where you can't say no to that. As much as they loved UCF, they had to go and take that opportunity. But looks like the stars have aligned, and Scott's back and Mike's back, and I'm sure there'll be some others that have come back. And so they get a second shot at this thing, which is really exciting. And I think if you're a UCF fan, I think you're very optimistic as well.
Now, on your bingo card, you probably didn't have Gus Malzahn flaming out at UCF and ending up in Tallahassee, right? You didn't have those things.
I did not. And so the last time I talked, obviously I did a UCF game last year, and I've had, Gus, and you guys know, because you've dealt with him a lot in the media. He was kind of a tough guy to read sometimes. And he's very, I like to say I've, in my 15 years at ESPN, I have talked to a lot of coaches, and some kind of give you that coach speak. And Gus was kind of always like that. I was fortunate that I think I got to know him enough where he kind of talked a little bit. And he always said, listen, if his football coaching career was an 18-hole, golf match, he was on like 16 or 17. He was towards the end, but yeah, to see him leave and take a offensive coordinator position, I think surprised. But it goes back to kind of your first question, right? This is kind of the new college football. And so now you got these coaches, and there's a lot of head coaches that were coordinators. They can make really good money being coordinators, right? More so than they ever could make as coordinators. And you go there and you do what you just kind of love, calling plays in his instance, and you don't have the stress that the head coach is going to have and everything that goes along with that stress the head coach has, which we know now is so much more than it used to be, with now the NIL, with what's going to be revenue sharing, with the transfer portal. There is so much more on top of what these head coaches have to do. I kind of get why some of these guys will say, okay, in the latter years of my career, I'm just going to go back to doing what I do best, calling plays or calling defenses, and just kind of leave all the bull crap to another guy. And in this case, it's Mike Norvell in Tallahassee.
Really, Scott Frost got let go in Nebraska in September of 2022, right? It's now February of 2025. If he called you right now today and said, Rini, what am I missing? What do I need to know about college football for the last 3 years? And it doesn't seem all that long, by the way. What would you kind of tell him to kind of get him up to speed on what's changed from September of 2022 to February of 2025?
Yeah, a fascinating question, because I'm sure he's asked people that. And that's one good thing. I think he's got people on his staff that have obviously been coaching the whole time and have been through this thing. Guys, to me, I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's money, right? It just, you have to have money in place, and then you have to control the portal. And the other side of that is roster retention, right? It's retaining your own roster. So everyone thinks, okay, I'm going to go in the portal and pick people up. Yeah, that's one part of it. But I think the bigger part of it, Adam, is retaining your roster, right? Not letting other teams come in there. And that's kind of like the chess match that these coaches are dealing with. Keeping guys on your roster, not losing them, and then maybe picking some pieces from other rosters. And of course, they're trying to retain their rosters. And then having the budget, the money in line, because let's face it, you got to pay these guys. I mean, I just read something online tonight. I'm sure you guys saw it, and it sounded pretty factual, but it said that the Georgia quarterback that went to Miami.
Carson Beck
is going to make more money than 11 starting quarterbacks in the NFL this year. Think about that.
Insane. And he'll just stay in college as long as he can.
Why wouldn't you? And that's why, like last year when they talked about, Cam Ward might go to the NFL, I go, there's no way, because if you could make $1 million, $2 million, I mean, Dylan Gabriel, play as long as you can. Diego Pavia, listen, I love Diego Pavia. Does anyone really think he's going to have an NFL career? I hope he does. I hope all these guys do. But probably not. So, yeah, you're going to sue the NCAA and stay in college as long as you can and get a 7th year because you're making good money. So it's just an upside down world. But just to get back to your question, once again, I think for him, it's roster retention. When he was here before, he really wasn't worried about losing players on his roster. Now you have to deal with it. Now, again, they're in the Big 12. They're in a different tier, but you're still losing players like crazy. So roster retention and having that money in place.
You mentioned Mike Dawson earlier. Obviously, he was here with Scott the first time. Some other familiar names are back: Sean Beckton, Mackenzie Milton. So Scott obviously goes back to his tree of folks he knew. But he made a comment that he specifically went out and hired some people that he did not know, including Alex Grinch, the defensive coordinator. Yeah. What do you think of that philosophy? Obviously, coaches typically dip into the tree of folks they know. What do you think of him going and finding some people that he isn't as familiar with to bring on the staff?
I don't think it's a bad thing because, for one, coaches are very finicky. So if you're not going to go with someone that you know, he talked to a lot of people that are familiar with Alex Grinch. There's no doubt about it. And I think that's a great thing too. I think self-evaluation with a lot of coaches, and Scott probably went through this now that it's his second time around at UCF. And you talked about kind of sitting out after Nebraska. And I know he was with the Rams a little bit and he did a little bit, but there's a lot of self-evaluation, self-scout that goes on. Hey, if I get to a place again, what will I do different? And so probably one of them was, okay, maybe go get some coaches that I don't have a great relationship with, but I've seen them on the periphery and I like what they do. And I think they would work well to me. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I talked to Joe Harris-Simiak is the new head coach at UMass. And obviously that's where I played. So kind of have a vested interest. He was the defensive coordinator at Rutgers. And I've had some great conversations with him and about how he went about bringing in his staff and changes that he made from the last time he was a head coach at the University of Maine. And so it's fascinating, but it's in the same lines of, hey, self-scouting. Where do I think I was maybe not performing the best that I could have as a head coach, and where can I improve? And so, it doesn't matter if you're, the 105th player on the roster or the head coach, you always have to evolve and learn and get better. And Scott's no different. He knows that.
We've been doing this so long. I remember Mackenzie Milton as a freshman on campus, and now he's the quarterback coach. And on Around the Kingdom, our show, we talked about whether it was a risky hire. What do you make of that hire? I mean, he spent some time as an analyst, up at Tennessee with Josh Heupel, and that was Scott Frost's, big get right off the top.
I love it, and I just think, I know he played at Florida State and transferred, but at the end of the day, he's a UCF guy, right? And so there's that. I always think there's a sense of pride, right, when you come back to your alma mater, and the place that everything started. And then I'm old school in that I really believe in, and some people take this the wrong way, there's a lot of good coaches out there that never played the game. I understand that. I get that. I come from the school where I just think if you're a former player, especially one that's produced like a Mackenzie Milton, when you're in that meeting room and you're looking those players in the eye and they know, okay, he did it, and you can look at him and say, I'm never going to ask you to do something that I didn't do myself. I just think that holds tremendous weight. And I just think it's really, really good to get good young coaches. And I think Mackenzie Milton will end up being a star coach. And so, yeah, I think it's a great hire for Scott Frost.
And again, on social media this week, you talked about Mike Dawson saying you played alongside him. You called him a great coach. What do you think he brings to the Knights?
A ton of experience. Mike has been around for a long time. So I'm a little older than Mike. I think, I got done playing at UMass in 95. I think Mike 96. But one of the guys that got right into coaching. So, and he was at the University of New Hampshire. So he's tight. And he was at Ohio State. He's tight with Ryan Day. He knows Chip. He's coached with Chip and for Chip a lot. So he's coached in the NFL. He's coached at power programs. He was at Kansas recently as well. So he's been around. And so I think that experience, and kind of goes back to Adam's question too of, hey, what does Scott need to learn that was different from college football? So you got guys like Mike Dawson that have been in these programs all along. I know sometimes he might not have been a position coach. He might have been, an analyst, but, he was at a place like Ohio State, and to see the inner workings of that roster, right? So that's what's great. Scott Frost has a relationship with Mike Dawson, and Mike has been to all these places. And he, again, a wealth of knowledge, knowing coaches everywhere. And I just think that pays dividends in and of itself in this world of the transfer portal that we live in, because these coaches do talk to each other. They do try to help kids out that aren't a fit. And the other thing is he played the game, and he's coached so many high-level players. And he's coaching, again, goes back to what I just said about McKenzie. He was a rush and outside linebacker. When we played in the 90s, it was a little different. But he's essentially coaching the position that he's played and grown up and coached for years at. So I just think his tremendous knowledge. And again, he's a really good person. Obviously, I'm biased. I know him pretty well. He's a good person. And I think that first and foremost, you need to build your coaching staff with good people.
You said something earlier, Rini, that I want to get back to. I'm a football novice. You called Mike the run game coordinator. What does that mean? What does the run game coordinator do?
Yeah, I think they gave him defensive. So I think
he's edge coach and run game coordinator.
Coach, and I think he's defensive run game coordinator. So kind of normally, they throw these titles around, and so basically, I think what his job is going to be is he's going to be in charge of devising with the defensive coordinator how best they can stop the run, right? And so, and I love how these coaches do this now, because in the old days you had an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and then you just had position coaches. Now on the offensive side of the ball, you might have a run game offensive coordinator. You might have someone that specializes in the pass game coordinator, right, and the offensive coordinator. So they're all going to put their minds together and do what's best for their unit. And so for Mike, I think defensively, I think one of his big jobs is going to be working with defensive coordinators and say, hey, we need to stop the run first and foremost.
You travel all over the country every Saturday. You watch a ton of college football. You watch a ton of tape. And one of his press conferences, Scott Frost said he wasn't sure if this real spread tempo offense hadn't died right now, if it hadn't really just kind of come to kind of an end as a trend right now. What do you see as you're kind of talking to coaches traveling the country? Is this fast tempo spread? Is it kind of going away, or is it still there? What do you make of all that?
It's fascinating that you bring that up. So I played in the early 90s in college, and we were double tights, 22 personnel, a lot of times double tights, fullback, tailback. We ran the ball option, 21 personnel, always two backs. And then just over the years, and then I got involved in broadcasting, you see that evolution of the kind of the run and shoot, and then it went to the one back, and then the spread, which pretty much everybody's running now. I don't think it's ending anytime soon, but to your point, I do think you are going to see more kind of H-back, fullbacks back in there. You're going to see some more power running, and you're going to see some more bigger offensive lines. And the reason why, Adam, is because the spread was so prevalent. What did teams have to do? Defensively, you had to get players, right? Fast, quick defensive players that could play in space with these spread running backs, these wide receivers. So linebackers that were used to be 230, 240, they were in the box, they were big, they were strong, they could hit. All of a sudden, those guys had to be 210, 215, so they could run in space, and they could cover, and they could make tackles in space. So when you scout a team, you kind of look at their defense, say, they got athletic linebackers, but hey, if we have a 310-pound average offensive line, we got a couple really good tight ends that can block. Why don't we just go with double tights, get a fullback or H-back in there, and just pound these guys between the tackles? Yeah. Is it pretty football? No, but guess what? If you run the ball consistently and play good defense, control the clock, and the clock goes a lot faster now in college football, you're going to win more times than not. So, at the end of the day, yeah, do fans love to see 40-point games? Yeah, but I guarantee you a fan base would rather see a 14-10 win over a 45-40 loss all day long. So to your point, I do think you're going to start seeing that transition back to more of a power game. It's not going to happen overnight, but you're going to see, I guarantee you, more offensive packages this season with that power look to it.
Tell us about that UMass Hall of Fame. Is there a bust of you like the Pro Football Hall of Fame? Is there like a 50-foot statue?
It's right there. So
That's it, huh? Wow.
That plaque behind me is the same one that's in the Hall of Fame at the University of Massachusetts. The Hall of Fame there is it's attached to the Mullen Center, which is where their the basketball arena is. So yeah, it was really an honor. 2007, I was put in the UMass Hall of Fame, and so it's a place that's near and dear to me. Obviously, as a fan, just frustrated because they have underachieved greatly since they've transitioned up to FBS. They're on their holy cow 4th coach now. It hasn't been good. This is a new year for them, though. They're going to go into the MAC. I kind of look at UCF. My wife has a couple degrees from UCF. So before I was a broadcaster, I was a UCF season ticket holder when UCF played at the Citrus Bowl. So I have been to a ton of UCF games, and I've watched UCF. I've watched the progression as they were, they moved up and they went independent, went to the MAC. A lot of people probably don't even realize, hey, UCF used to play in the MAC, went to Conference USA.
They didn't do well in the MAC either.
So I kind of look at UMass now going into the MAC. It's a good conference for them this year, and I'm excited for them to see what they can do. And so, I heard you guys before I came on when I was in the green room talking about kind of pressure for Scott Frost. So the interesting thing, though, he has said all the right things because he knows fans are going to expect right away, boom, off and running, right where you left off. But it's not like that. It is hard to win college football games. And here's the other thing, guys, with the transfer portal, and there's going to be another portal after the spring, in the spring window, you don't even know what your roster is going to look like for training camp. You guys could correct me if I'm wrong. I was kind of looking at UCF's roster right now. It looked like there's 5 or 6 really good quarterbacks on that roster. So I'm looking at those names and I'm thinking there is no way week 1, all those quarterbacks are on that roster because they're going to go through spring. Someone's going to get mad. Someone's not going to get reps. Someone's going to get called, and they're going to be in the portal. And that's just that's the world we live in. That's hence why I think a lot of these coaches don't want to have spring games anymore. But the players know through spring practice the reps they're going to get. So, and I bring it up just because as a fan, the one thing the portal kind of does is it spreads that talent out around the nation. That's one thing it's done. It's taken the depth away for the most part from the Georgias, the Alabamas, the Ohio States, although Ohio State was super deep last year. It spread that depth around because a lot of guys don't want to be second and third teamers if they can go start somewhere. So that part of it I like. The other thing I like as a fan, no matter what the season was the year before, you can say, okay, we're going to revamp our roster and we're going to have a new shot next year, where college football, that was never the case. It was always, remember, new coach, hey, we'll give him year 3 as the turnaround. A lot of these coaches know that's not the case anymore. It's 1 or 2 years, and that was evident last year. I mean, how many coaches got fired last year that were only given 2 years? There was a handful of them, and so it's a new world in college football everywhere.
Rini Angolia, ESPN college football analyst, UMass Football Hall of Famer. We appreciate you being with us, and my best to your mom.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a great one. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks,
Thank you, Rini. Good stuff there. Good conversation. I think he's done
sucked
broadcasting a time
Trey.
or two, right?
You kind of sucked up a little bit, Trey. I mean, the Hall of Fame thing like 3 times. You would have a suck up there, right? No.
See, this is the sort of provocative nature that you have, and that's why you're
Listen,
a muckraker in that
Wow.
edition 13 of the newsletter, that
I've been called
clickbait
worse.
edition.
I've been called worse. I think I'm a silver tongue. I think am I still a silver tongue?
Somebody does call you silver
tongue.
tongue. Google it, folks.
I think Elo is more of a silver tongue than I am. That's Elo, L-O-W, by the way.
Yeah. Tell us about this week's news. Everybody's read it already. They subscribed.
Of course.
I skimmed. I haven't gotten through. I haven't had time.
Yeah, I give you a little bit of my take on Ticketgate, which I don't think was much about tickets at the final thing. I think it's more about connection to fan base and how UCF athletics, specifically on the football side, obviously, can maybe get some fans back engaged. So check it out. If you don't subscribe, there's the address on screen there. You can find it on all of our social media accounts as well.
Men's basketball, 2 in a row.
Yes.
2 in a row wins.
Yes.
Let's get a little bit more about the win over Kansas State from our Andrew Cherico.
After snapping the 7-game losing streak, UCF proved the win against Utah wasn't a one-off. Andrew Cherico here in the Digital Financial Arena for the Sons of UCF. Not in my house is what true freshman center Mustafa Chiam was saying all night as he tied the school record for 8 blocks in a game and recorded a double-double, leading the Knights to the 80-76 victory against Kansas State.
It feels really good, help my team get the win.
It's nice when your leaders take charge, and UCF did just that, with Darius Johnson and Keyshawn Hall combining for 49 points on the night.
These young men have been, in these situations a lot. They're 2 experienced players. They've been scorers, throughout their careers in college.
Nights like these are great when we both doing this. But, at the end of the day, it would just suck for us to, play at this level and then we lose. So, it's a lot of little stuff in there that we have to take the challenges on.
Last time out against TCU, UCF played their most dominant Big 12 game, winning by 27 at home. Now UCF head coach Johnny Darkin says going on the road against the Horned Frogs will prove a different kind of challenge. But he believes with preparation and execution, the Knights can string 3 wins in a row as they tip off Saturday at 4 p.m. And until next time, I'm Andrew Cherico for the Sons of UCF.
I'm hoping that our guy in the green room is not enraged by any of this. Let's bring in Bowtie Ben Hazel.
There he is.
It's now on side. Oh, there we go. Sporting it.
Do you see me? How can you be upset? Do you see my bow tie? I feel great. I'm in a great mood. And just to let you guys know how much I love you guys, I was at the Magic game prior to this, and I left the game because I had to come put my bow tie on. Wow. But Steph Curry had 40-something points by the time I left. I was like, wow, this is ridiculous. So he definitely made sure I saw it. But, I'm in a great mood. There's nothing to be upset about on this end.
That's good. You're looking good. You're looking good there. Has there been frustrating moments this season? Watching the growth and development of Mustafa Thiam has been something else. I mean, that kid has really come into his own.
Yes, he has. I mean, that was what we talked about early in the season. His growth will be a huge part of the success that this team is able to have. And when he's, almost putting up triple doubles with blocks and putting up double doubles and doing the things, starting to make shots, really kind of understanding when to pull the trigger on that 3-point shot and when not to, being extremely active. I think he's starting to weather the load, and there were some NBA scouts there, and rightfully so.
Yeah, on that point, Andrew Cherico, hot take Cherico, saying he wouldn't be surprised if someone takes a flyer on him in the NBA. And I thought, no. And he said it earlier on in the season, and he said it again during Wednesday night's game.
Right. And the one thing is that it's easy to say, like, he's definitely at that level. I do think he's going to be an NBA player. Do I think right now is the best time for him to go? I don't know. Right. Like, the thing is that, the Big 12 is a great conference, but the draft is the world. So you got to make sure you check to see what's going on in Europe. Make sure you check to see what's going on in the other conferences and see where he stacks up there. But he definitely has shown that he has the talent. And I'm not saying that he doesn't have the ability to get drafted this year, but you got to take a lot more into account when talking about somebody's draft status for sure.
All right, Ben, I'm fired up about something. I learned post-game that before this game, Johnny Dawkins challenged Mustafa Sham and said, hey, when are you going to get a double-double? And he went out and damn near got a triple-double. Why didn't we do that sooner, Ben? Why did we wait until Kansas State to challenge him to get a double-double?
Well, I think it's because he hoped that in order for us to win, we didn't need to rely on him shouldering that much of a load, right?
Fair, okay.
You would think, hey, maybe if I just get Juice to play some D, we can get the result that we need. You know what I mean? But Coach Dawkins is pulling out all the stops, but I think it's also Coach Dawkins' relationship with understanding where Mustafa can be, right? And what I mean by that is just, the motor, the thought process, what it takes, how you have to do it night in and night out to be a draft pick, because Coach Dawkins was that, right? He has been challenged in that way where he scores 20 and a coach comes up to him and says, "Is that all you got? Like, is that all you got for this team? Is 20? There's 10 minutes left. I know you got 20. You're playing amazing. Keep going." And that's a motor that I think Coach Dawkins is just pretty much, drilling into him, and we're seeing in real time.
But you've seen some rotation changes. Obviously, it's some of his injury, right? Rokas is out. I know Juice has been in and out of the lineup. You're seeing more Mikey minutes. You're seeing more minutes from Tyler Hendricks. JJ Taylor hasn't been seen in like a month at this point. What do you make of the new rotations, and what kind of juice, no pun intended, that's kind of infused for UCF on both the offensive and defensive side?
We're watching guys play it out. Like I said, Coach Dawkins doesn't really hold that allegiance to guys, right? Like, hey, he's not a guy making big promises in the recruiting trail. He's not a guy that's going to tell you lies. And so what I mean by that is that the guys that we're seeing play, Coach Dawkins clearly has said, defense is where it's going to do it. Energy and effort will get you on this court. And the guys that are starting to buy into that, I'm proud of a Mikey, right? Like, he didn't necessarily shoot it that well coming off the court. 7 rebounds, right?
Well, you could argue, Ben, he had the biggest play of that game with that rebound. He got fouled at the end of K-State. You could argue that was one of the bigger plays of the game.
Exactly. And you see Tyler Hendricks, another person, didn't have his best offensive game, but a guy, I talked to him before, right? He was at the women's game. I was able to talk to him, and I'm just like, yeah, like, you get to play free. You're the load as far as what you need to do for us to be able to win, and what else you do outside of that is just icing. So just fly around. You can play free. Like, there's no pressure on any offensive shot that you take, because we need you for defense. Just try to get the offensive rebound, try to get the defense, try to get a steal. You know what I mean? You have that freedom in the position that you're in, and just take advantage of it. And I think he's starting to buy into that.
Well, if there's any pushback, Ben, the cynical fan would say, why didn't we do that sooner? Right. So the cynical fan would say, why didn't we do that 10 games ago or 8 games ago? So what would your response be to a fan who says too little too late with some of this rotation stuff?
And I would say, yes, you're 100% correct. Yeah, of course. Like what I say about Keyshawn's letter, why didn't you write that 5 games ago? But the number one thing that coaches are always struggling with and trying to figure out is the mental aspect of the game. Like, I don't know why, you can even say Darius's growth. You say, hey, why didn't he make that jump his freshman year? Why didn't he make it his sophomore year? There's no rhyme or reason or really true understanding on why certain things click and they don't. Like, hey, I know fans might be able to relate more to your children, right? Think about it that way. Hey, if I tell you do not open that cabinet, and then your kid goes and open the cabinet, and somebody came in and said, I really wish their parent would tell them not to open the cabinet, you probably be a little upset. And you look
mental
around,
note when you stop by Ben's house, don't open the cabinets.
You don't understand what it's like. And coaching is no different, right? So I don't know why it clicks over time. Sometimes you have to get burned a few times. So, hey, go do what you think will work best for you. And sometimes that means you got to take 7 losses before they finally understand, like, hey, doing it my way is not going to be the way of success for us.
Up 6 with 12 seconds to go. You feel pretty good, right?
I feel great. You should feel great, but it's been a crazy year. A lot of stuff has crept into the sports center this year that you would be like, I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah, you mentioned they're playing good ball right now, and that's something Darius said post game, that they think of themselves maybe as a bit of a dangerous team because they're clicking. Do you feel they've turned a corner based on what you've seen the last 2?
Yes, I do. I mean, I honestly do. Of course, there still were a lot of defensive lapses in there, but I think as far as a mindset and an effort standpoint, I do think there has been some clicking there, right? Like, you're starting to see some contributions from guys, and they're not purely focused on the offensive end. That's been the biggest, at least, thing that I've seen start to change that I do think bodes well. I mean, you can look at the total point production. Woo, we haven't let a team score 90 in the past 2 games. Man, what a feeling.
But I'm not asking you to say anything bad about a player, but have you ever seen a player with a more line drive jump shot than Benny Williams?
No, I have not.
Okay.
It's a wonder when it goes in, but I guess, at our level, you've seen a bunch of different types of jump shots. It's like, hey, if that's what you want to go with, just make it go in.
Obviously, we've seen Rokas out for a little bit. How do you think that has maybe helped or changed Mustafa, knowing that maybe he's got to play more minutes, maybe he's got to step more? Do you think that has had any impact on kind of how he's played, knowing that he's going to be the primary big going forward with Rokas out?
No, because he had pure control of that before. If he played great with no fouls, he wouldn't come out. So
Fair.
I think I don't think it changed much. I think he's purely been focused on himself. I see Coach Mamadou, of course, like they spend a ton of time together. They're working tirelessly. I mean, I know he knows it. He sees it, the potential to go to the next level, of course, whether that be this year or next. I think he's starting to, see how he can be effective. And that's what he's purely focused on. And I think everybody on the team would agree that if we could play Mustafa for 40 minutes, we would.
Well, Ben, talk about that relationship for a second. It's not too many people in the world can relate to being a 7-foot huge human being, right? But UCF has one of those on the coaching staff, and Mamadou. Talk about that relationship between him and Mustafa. Now you think that maybe it helps his game, just having somebody like that who he can relate to, that understands what it means to be a giant human being like him.
Well, first off, it's the African connection. That's the number one thing. So their coach with all of the bigs, Ibrahima, all of those guys, like he has like almost like I would even look at it as like damn near family, father-son type relationship. So that's the first aspect. So all the guys come in, they respect them a ton. But then when you get to getting in the drills, the breakdowns around the basket, you see like this guy knows exactly what he's talking about. He's played the position in a very similar way, which I think is something that's really unique, right? If I were a guy that had to train Mustafa, and I trained some of the bigs a little bit, but it's like, hey, I'm coming at it from a very different perspective than a Coach Mamadou. Like, I'll be like, hey, you catch it from the elbow, you rip, do this, spin move. Coach Mamadou's like, no, one dribble, dunk it, spin move, dunk it. Like, you know what I mean? He's just bringing some different angles to it, which I think has only helped Mustafa.
Earlier this season, UCF's most dominant Big 12 win was over TCU. Now they go to Fort Worth. What do you think game planning looks like? They look at the film of that. I'm not as familiar with who may not be playing for TCU at this stretch, but what would be your game planning and how would you go about it here with TCU on Saturday?
The thing at this part of the season is you're not doing much changing, right? So when you're playing teams the second time, you might film sessions are way shorter. Practices are way shorter. You're just really focusing on making sure guys are rested and just understand the scout that's coming into this game, like what guys have really gotten off recently. But other than that, these guys are keeping it the same. Did I freeze?
You did freeze. You look good, though. Don't worry about it.
You did. The bow tie looks good.
Let me see.
We can hear you. Oh, there you go. There. Oh, we can hear you. You can keep talking.
We're still frozen, but I don't think there's going to be much change from the preparation perspective. I think we're going to focus on the defensive end. That's always going to be top of mind and rebounding the ball. And then, of course, offensively, I think we feel pretty comfortable with that side of the ball.
Next Wednesday, home finale, Oklahoma State senior night. What do you think Darius Johnson means to this men's basketball program?
He represents a lost art in college basketball across the country, right? The 4-year, stay in the same place, grow with the coach is something that's a lost art in basketball. And I think he represents it well, right? Like when you see the progression over his years, his development, I think everybody in the fan base can say, like, we welcomed it, we watched it in real time, and we are happy at how it turned out, especially in this past season. So, just extremely proud of him. It's something to be proud of, going out with a bang, especially in these last few games.
Ben, the last couple of games, we got to see your good friend BJ Taylor on the call on ESPN Plus. I know he has a habit of calling the basket the cup. Do you have is the cup acceptable? Do you have another name for the basket, or do you just call it the basket? Where are we at on calling it the cup?
The cup is it's I would say it's an accepted basketball term. Okay. It's funny that you bring it up because I hear him say it, and then now that you said it, I'm like, oh yeah, he does say the cup. I didn't think much about it when he was saying it, but it is something that I think is a lost term. People don't say it as much, driving the ball to the cup. But people have heard the tin, the cup,
The
the
rack.
basket,
I like the rack,
hoop,
Ben. I like the rack a lot.
rack. It's point guards have always been a little different anyway. So that's a BJ thing.
My last point for you is not a question. It's more of a statement. So my dearly beloved grandmother, she's 91 years old. She watches this show every week, not now because she's asleep, but tomorrow she'll watch the show. And I'll talk to her after every show. She gives me feedback and show notes. And every week, Ben, you know what she tells me? She says, I love that Ben Hazel.
Oh,
so
man.
I just want to tell you that my 91-year-old grandmother loves when you're on the show, thinks you are the best thing that she's ever seen, loves your analysis. She doesn't know much about basketball or UCF. She just watches because I'm on here. But you are now her favorite person on the show, which I don't know how I should feel about, but I want to let you know you are now the number one son for my dear sweet grandmother.
Well, first off, now you're making me feel horrible because my screen's frozen. Because
no, she's admiring this look, Ben. She's liking that this image is frozen.
And I'm like damn near blushing. Like I can't say enough how much I appreciate taking your spot feels. Like that is it's something that I hold dearly, and I'm gonna tell my mom and dad about it. Actually,
to be fair, I'm not sure I'm not third behind Trace anyway, so I don't really know. I don't really know where am I on the rankings right now. I'll get back to you.
Ben, prepare the bow tie when you join us again next week on Sons of UCF Live. We appreciate you.
I got them ready. As long as we get a W, I'm ready to pull them out. Go Knights.
Right. Thank you, Ben. Charge on. You could be polling third. Well, we know you're at least second.
I don't even know. Well, I mean, Mike in there. I don't really know where I rank in the Suns. I'll have to have my grandmother get a top 5 together, and she won't come on the show because technology is not her thing. But I will happily share her top 5 favorite Suns on next week's episode.
When she comes to visit you, got to schedule that around.
It's also bedtime, man. I mean, bedtime.
Yeah.
She likes the early sleep. Yeah.
All right, men's basketball is off to TCU Saturday at 3. Robert, 2 letters, 2 words, will be there. If you are, look him up on the Twitter machine and he'll say hi. And then Wednesday, March 5th, Oklahoma State. UCF scored, I believe, 95 at Stillwater and lost 104-95. That's senior night. Say goodbye to Darius Johnson. I'm not sure who else, but there will be others in the mix. Final stretch here. In the Big 12, last couple of games, we turn to Jeff Allen now for our look around the Big 12.
As the calendar turns to March this weekend, we get closer to the madness. 4th-ranked Houston is closing in on the regular season conference championship as they have rolled to a 16-1 conference mark. The Cougars host Cincinnati as part of this weekend's action that tips off on Saturday at 4:30 on CBS. Other Saturday contests have number 10 Texas Tech at Kansas, 2 o'clock on ESPN. UCF visits TCU, 4 o'clock on ESPN+. Arizona State battles Utah, 7 o'clock on ESPN+. Oklahoma State takes on Baylor, 8 o'clock on ESPN+. Number 22 Arizona meets number 9 Iowa State, 9 o'clock on ESPN. Big 12 After Dark has number 25 BYU entertaining West Virginia at 10 o'clock on ESPN2. And the lone game on Sunday has Colorado versus Kansas State, 4 o'clock on ESPN+. And taking a quick look at the race in women's basketball, it's a big-time battle for the top. Number 17 Baylor has won 9 in a row and holds down the conference lead with a 15-2 mark. And number 10 TCU, which has won 5 straight, sits a half game back at 14-2. They square off in Waco on Sunday at 6:30 on FS1. With your Big 12 Minute, I'm Jeff Allen.
If that is not enough, Jeff Allen also helms the widely popular To Your Point. That's been a fun show. I like their intervals here where they're coming out about once a month.
Yeah, a lot of fun. Obviously, Jeff puts that together. We're trying to get some different voices on, some different combinations of folks to talk about various topics in the UCF universe. This month's episode, rather, features Kyle Nash, Matt Michelle, and our very own Dolly Drama. And it's available now on YouTube, available also in your audio feed. Here's a quick clip of Matt Michelle with something interesting that he brought up about Johnny Dawkins.
Well, I'm going to go in a totally opposite direction. I'm going to go in a different direction. I don't think Johnny's on the hot seat, but I wonder if Johnny's not going to be around for his own volition. I mean, I think you look at what's going on in the college athletic world. You look at coaches like, Jim Larinaga at Miami. We saw what happened with Tony Elliott, at Virginia. At what point does Johnny let's not forget he's about 61 years old. He doesn't look around and start thinking, I'm just not, this is a difficult way to do this now.
The backwards hat appears to be the choice of fashion if you're on the panel.
It is. No, we didn't give Matt the memo in advance. I apologize.
You can find that right now on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel. Let's talk baseball now, where men's basketball's got 2 wins in a row. Baseball now struggling a little bit. 2 losses in a row, including a 4-3 loss to FAU at home on Tuesday. And our intern on baseball, one of them, Nick Williams, was there.
Hello, Night Nation. I'm Nick Williams with your UCF Baseball Minute. The Knights dropped their 2nd game in a row, this time coming from FAU in Tuesday's matchup where they lost 4-3. Andrew Williamson, who had his 2nd home run of the season, and Chase Cruson, who had an impressive bunt to bring in the leading score in the 4th inning, just wasn't enough for the Cardiac Knights comeback. Now they're set to face their first road challenge against the USF Bulls.
Well, I think, one, it's a road series, and we need to get on the road before we open the league, so it's something we need to go do, and anytime you're wearing our logo and they got their logo on, I guess it's not friendly, let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, especially from a guy from New Jersey, I'm from the Jersey Shore, but you could still feel the rival. Those guys, they come into town every time, or we go there every time, they try to beat our butts. So as long as there's somebody trying to hurt us or do something to us, we're going to have to fight and scratch back and beat them up too. So
it's an easy home and home for both of us. That 3rd week where it works, it's a road trip for one of us every other year, and it's not a huge trip. They're a quality team. I think playing them gets you ready for what the Big 12 feels like, especially emotionally. If you can amp that up and get them going, I'm all for it.
The Knights won't have to travel far as their next weekend series is against USF in Tampa, with games starting at 6:30 on Friday, 2 p.m. on Saturday, and 1 p.m. on Sunday. All games are set to stream on ESPN+. For your UCF Baseball Minute, I'm Nick Williams.
And then Tuesday, the midweek game, the Florida Gators come to John Giuliano Park, 6:00 start. Appreciate Nick and Andrew Gregg with our coverage of baseball as well. Michael, he's working up another article you'll find soon on sonsofUCF.com. Softball, our man Eric Lopez, the star of Around the Kingdom,
he's
back on the mic. They got a big win at FAU, number 22 FAU, a 3-0 win midweek, and they're now 13-6-1. The Charge On Classic this weekend. Number of games. They got George Mason. They got Providence. It's Pups at the Plex. Bring your dog to the game. North Florida, Georgia Southern, all sorts of stuff. So softball back home, trying to rack up some wins. Right around the corner is the start of conference play. All right, let's take a look at some news and notes.
My name is Tavion Swint, aka Chick, and I'm the running back at UCF. Let's go around the kingdom.
Was that take 2?
What are you gonna do?
We had Andrew Cherico there. We had Dwayne Jones there talking with Tavion Swint. That interview now up on Sons YouTube. Women's basketball, they lose senior night at home to Iowa State 98-73. They are at Houston on Saturday. 3-14 right now in the Big 12, 10-17 overall. Good luck at the NFL Combine to BJ Adams, Kobe Hudson, RJ Harvey, and the aforementioned Mac McWilliams. And UCF Athletics, according to Matt Michelle of the Orlando Sentinel, has filed a motion to dismiss former defensive coordinator Ted Roof's lawsuit. Roof wants the money he says is due him. UCF says when the former head coach, Gus Malzahn, resigned, Roof's post-employment compensation now limited. I think it's certainly an interesting angle. I want it to go to trial, Adam.
Yeah, so do I.
I am putting in PTO, and
you need to be called as a character witness if this thing goes to trial. That's all I'm telling you.
We now call Trace. What did Ted Roof do? I asked him.
I have a T-shirt you can wear if you need
it. I should wear that.
There's a few still available.
That case has been pushed out so far, but that would be good stuff right there. Mentioned Around the Kingdom. We talked about moving forward for UCF in light of. We're not calling it? You don't like calling it ticket game?
I'm good with ticket game.
You're the inflammatory journalist, writing other provocative articles.
Shock jock all the way here, and Eric Lopez joins me in this clip. Maybe not. Clicking the buttons here. It's not or not.
Well,
yes, you're trying to get the brokers that are in the market to resell tickets. I think you and I have talked about it. There's been times where UCF has announced sellouts, and then we're like, wait a minute, this ain't packed, right? So they're trying to go after those people. I think that's a losing battle. You're never going to win that battle. To me, it's not worth it if it comes at the risk of agitating people that actually are your seats that are invested in your program. That's why I don't think it was a cause. I understand the cause. I just don't think it was worth it.
You can find that episode right now on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel, where we have all this great content and more coming next week. All right, it is that time again, Adam.
So it's a mailbag. So what?
So what? Do you know whose mailbag that is?
It's that time again. Time to open the Brian W. Peterson Sons of UCF mailbag.
And you just saw him with the Baseball Minute. He's fresh out of work. He's rushed home. We bring in Nick Williams, part of our baseball crew this season. Nick, hello.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
We
Yes.
can.
Loud and clear.
And if you freeze, don't worry about it. That was Ben Hazel's look just a few moments ago. Nick, tell us a little bit about you in addition to work and you're juggling classes. What's your major?
Yeah, my major is journalism on the electronic broadcast track. I work a simple part-time job in retail. Things did not go as planned tonight. We thought we were getting out at 9:05. I did rush here. I knew I had to be on the Brian W. Peterson mailbag, so I'm ready to go. And also, just off topic, Adam, I love that shirt, by the way. I don't know
you.
where you got that from, but
I know a guy who knows a guy. I see a guitar in the background there. Do you play that thing? Is that just decoration?
No, it's not for decoration.
Okay.
That'll be an expensive one, but yeah, I do play a little bit here and there. Maybe we can get some instrumentals going on another podcast.
Not sure who we is, but I'm sure at some point Robert will ask you to play that for some sort of donation to your favorite charity. So keep that handy in future shows.
I will.
So, Nick, Matthew is behind the scenes, and when he joined us for the mailbag, we hit him cold with the questions. He didn't know what the questions were, and then I kind of felt bad about that. And we had Dwayne, and and then Andrew Gregg, and I gave him the questions. And Adam, Nick says to me, "I don't want the questions in advance.
I love it.
Hit me.
No,
By the way,
love it. Yeah.
By the way, I love Nick, but you see him tousle his hair, which Terry Mahadra pointed out during the 7th inning stretch. I think Nick does that just directing it at me because I can't.
We've talked about it a little bit. It's all love.
Why is everything about you, Trace? I mean, it's not all about you.
Wow.
There's other people. It's not all about you.
Wow.
Could be Terry Mahadra.
$100 to Nick if he plays guitar. Wow. I don't know. That's a lot of money.
Are you good? Like, do you have a go-to song? Like, if you had to play one right now, what are you playing?
I can play "Can't Help Falling in Love with You" by Elvis Presley pretty well.
All right, go get the
now
guitar.
you're gonna have to do this.
Go get the guitar. Yeah.
Why would we got nothing but time here.
You rushed home for this.
It's tuned, but all right.
When it's not tuned, it should always be tuned. At least he has pants on. I was worried about that for a second.
That could be an issue.
Happy about that. No, happy I had pants on.
All right, let's see here. Let me give myself some space. Multi-talented interns, I guess. I'm not singing though. That's a no.
Trace will take care of that.
No.
Trace. All right. Let's see here. You guys have put me on the spot. Like I'm a little nervous.
It's an hour-long show, Nick. Anytime.
All right. Can y'all hear that fine?
We got you.
Yes.
No, we got it. Yeah.
All right. Oh, I'm messing up, but that's a little bit of it. I'm not going to do the whole thing.
Now smash it on the ground and really make.
That's impressive. Robert, we'll get you in touch with Nick for that donation to the Nick Williams Foundation.
Yeah, he said $100, so let's see if he owns up to that one.
He is a man of his word.
He is, yeah.
All right, back to the mailbag at J.A. Hadaway. Some of our Big 12 cousins have sports like hockey and horse riding. Should UCF accentuate a sport like surfing to show its regional spirit? Nick?
Should we have a surfing team? Is that the question?
Or something that fits the region. I don't know, a fishing team, maybe. I, for one, am pro beach volleyball. I think that would be a welcome addition to UCF.
I mean, they have like club teams for just about everything. I don't see why not. I think that we would, honestly, I think the fans would love it. Beach volleyball team, especially. Yeah, surfing team would be really cool. I think that there already is like a club for it. I don't think it's a team though, but yeah, that would be very, very cool to see. I'd love it. I don't see why.
So, fun fact here: I was on a tour of UCF last Friday with my daughter as she toured UCF.
Congratulations to her.
Thank you.
Yes.
And one of the things, we were actually in the engineering building on this tour, and they pointed out to all of us that UCF was a national champion in cyber defense. So if we can win a cyber defense national championship, I think we need surfing, horseback riding, polo, cornhole, whatever. If we can win a cyber defense national championship, hang the banners, give me a cornhole team.
At Golden Knight _2, what is a non-traditional sport you have seen internationally you'd like to see UCF adopt as a sport or club, Adam?
I didn't read the questions either. Non-traditional sport I've seen internationally.
What do you think? Well, both of you think.
Rugby team? Do we have anything rugby related?
Yeah, well, UCF's got a rugby club, but ping pong is huge internationally. It's an Olympic sport. You ever watch these guys just back and forth? It's just insane. I think that UCF should add that.
Give me what's the ice thing? Curling? Is that the one with the brooms where they're like throwing the stones on the ice? Give me that thing.
UCF with a curling team. Hey, I think Arizona State has a hockey team, so it would be fine. Nick, anything off the wall? Maybe an X Games type of sport?
I think that I would have to roll with the sport that got a lot of coverage last year between USA and I think it was Pakistan, and that was cricket. Let's do some cricket out there.
What about breakdancing? I mean, Ray Gunn killed it in the Olympics. Can we get breakdancing here?
We already kind of have a dance team, so.
Breakdancing. At Cam Cox _21. If John Rice Plumlee was on the 2025 UCF team, would he win the quarterback job? Now that's just mean. He's in the NFL. He's like 27 now, right? So yes. Yeah. Right?
It's a great question, honestly. It really is a great question. I don't know how he'd fit in Scott's offense. I guess I'll say yes, because he'd be like 29 at this point. But I don't think it's a foregone conclusion.
At UCF Knights win coming up on the end of year 2 for the Bulls before in the Big 12. Rank 1 through 4. Who has been most successful overall program in the Big 12? I'm going BYU 1, Cincinnati 2, UCF 3, Houston 4. Football really drags Houston down. Basketball gives them a big lift, but not enough to get them out of the basement.
Yeah. Is this overall, like for all sports?
All sports. We did not study rowing before we went into this
Speak
one.
for yourself.
Yeah. I know what we could ask about that, but I think that I would put BYU at number 1 for sure. Yeah, I mean Cincinnati. I gotta go with Trace. Like I don't think I would change it up at all, honestly. That's pretty solid top 4 right there.
Adam.
I mean, I think Houston and basketball is such a power that that's of all the major sports we're talking about here, that's the only sport that one of the big 4, the new 4, kind of dominates. So I think you got to move Houston up a little bit. I guess you can make an argument. Is UCF not 4th?
Whoa, sounds like a column from the provocative columnist for the Sun's newsletter, Adam.
Not? That's a great question.
Add that. It could be an around the kingdom topic too.
We have a production meeting now. What do we do?
Yeah, we'd like to do that. At 2 letters, 2 words. With Nebraska dropping Tennessee from their football schedule, would you like to see UCF drop an FCS team and add Tennessee, or do you like that FCS warm up? You see, I've disagreed with Eric Lopez about this. I think you need the Jacksonville States and the North Carolina A&Ts on the schedule. You can't have 12 games that are all really, really challenging.
Well, inside info right here. I have a good authority by somebody you may or may not be related to based on the name here that you can play the electric guitar as well. Is that true?
Yeah, that's my mom, and yeah, there's an electric guitar at home. Thank you, Mom.
Okay. I miss Williams.
Hello. All right, Adam.
I don't know what the question was. Sorry,
Tennessee.
It depends. I don't want them this year because we need time for UCF to kind of get their season back righted. So I kind of want the cupcakes here early on, but maybe later on I'd be open to this in like a 27, 28 year, but 25, 26, give me the Cupcake City all day.
Are you demanding a home and home?
I would love a home and home, yes.
Yeah. Nick, what do you want? You want Tennessee on the schedule? Danny White?
Well, hold on a second. Isn't Nick Cole? Whoa. Inside info here I have as well that is not coming from Mrs. Williams. Nick, I believe, is a big UT fan as well. Do I have this correct?
Yes, Adam, you do. Born and raised in Jackson. Then we moved to Lakeland, Florida. But Yeah, I'm a big balls guy. I actually went to a game last season, so either way, I'd be rooting for offense if this happens. I mean, it would be a great game either way. I think that a lot of my friends have always asked me if that matchup ever happens, who you rooting for? I think I have to root for whoever has like more on the line at the time, like.
Whoa.
Wow.
Former Suns intern Nick Williams. Thanks for being with us. Not the Sons of Tennessee, Nick. Come on.
Hey.
Matt Turman's about to get promoted to the screen here in a second.
It's all love.
This question specifically for you, Adam, at @blackgold_ed. Mark Daniels, maybe he's not a fan of @blackgold_ed. Doesn't bring the football excitement to the basketball and baseball broadcast. Should Eric Lopez replace Mark and bring his next level knowledgeable excitement to these broadcasts?
Well, you can't ask me this question.
Adam, is that
you
what
can't ask me this question? Obviously, I'm an Elo stan, right? Like I think Elo's great, and he does a great job on softball. Does a great job when he fills in on baseball and basketball as well. I'll just say this, all right? I know we all like Mark Daniels. I'm not saying I don't like Mark Daniels. I'm not saying I do, by the way, but it would be interesting to have some younger voices take some of these more sort of ancillary sports, right? Have somebody do baseball and softball like Elo, having somebody do basketball. I think Scott Adams does the women's games, if I have that right. It would be interesting to have some younger voices kind of grow and develop. People like a Nick Williams across from us who want to build a broadcast career, having an opportunity to ascend to some of those roles. So I'd be open to that if you find the right people. But you can't ask me this because Elo stand over here.
Yeah, we love Elo. At Mr. Matt Dolan, we conclude with, does this mean, and we're going to get to the reference, the Milk Maniac is hosting Sons of UCF Live. So first, the setup. Adam, you may see some different faces in various time slots.
Yes,
we
got some work travel coming up here. Trace and I are both on work, so I had to clarify this in the newsletter. We don't work together, by the way. We just happen to both be on different work trips at the same time, and so you may see some new faces and some new places here over the next couple of weeks. But Nick, you may be able to help me with this because I feel like I can skew younger here. I was on social media on whatever day this was, and I'm seeing everyone like tweeting milk, and I'm like, what are we doing with milk? And I found our good friend Knighted Nate, who's not our good friend, but should be a good friend, who's always first in the basketball line, was live tweeting somebody drinking milk. I had no idea what was going on there. I then heard about it more. Can you fill us in on this Milk Maniac situation? Last week we were called older folks. So for us older folks, can you fill us in on what this Milk Maniac thing was all about?
Oh, that was Andrew, right? With the older folks.
Yes.
Yeah. Milk Maniac. Milk Maniac, aka Milk Mania. That's what they called the event. Funny enough, me and my roommate, we were walking as they were preparing, and we had seen it all across social media throughout the entire week. It's been happening for about a month. This guy's been hyping it up. This guy's been putting posters, all across campus. He also wears a mask, so we don't really know who he is. But he's lactose intolerant.
He is not.
That's what he says.
No.
We'll go with it. Well, he claims he is. And they had.
Why do this? Why?
for reasons like this, where apparently thousands of people are watching this stuff, Trace.
Yeah, to get us to talk about it. Like, that's all it really is. And I'm not going to lie. We were there 20 minutes before it was even happening, and there was already a sea of people. It was a big event. And he drank a jug of milk. It took him 30 minutes, though. He didn't chug the jug. They also had another guy in a penguin suit. He chugged some milk.
Of course.
But
why would they not?
It was just
2% whole milk. Do we know anything about the milk?
I actually don't know. I need to look closer at the color of the cap on that milk, but I think it may have been whole milk, which makes it even worse because it was pretty hot out there.
Nick,
back to our assignment process. Nick, maybe.
I hate to give feedback live on the show, Nick, but why are we not finding Milk Mania? You're a journalist. Like, why don't we find this guy, get him on the show, do an exclusive sit-down interview? He can wear the mask if he wants to. We can blur his face out. I feel like some feedback here.
All you had to do is ask. I'm on it.
All right.
Speaking of food, Nick, I need your review. Adam, could you play that clip of Dwayne at Hot Dogs to Eat?
One more time. It happens fast.
At Hot Dogs to Eat. How do you grade that moment there at Portillo's last week after he'd interviewed Tavion Swint? Nick?
Oh, I thought you said Adam. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, I've seen it before. My grade is
Nick, how do you grade that? How do you grade that?
Trace, we got to talk about it a little bit in the dugout. I think it was perfect. I think he nailed the bite. Not only the sound bites too, but I mean he nailed the bite on the hot dog, and it was perfect. It was perfect. I think that like he took a little bit of effort into it, and that took a lot of skills, a lot of good journalism skills right there for a feature story.
Here's my feedback for you, Nick. Let's watch this again as an entire entity here.
Can we do it slow-mo? Are you
what do I look like, Trace? I mean, this is an NBC here. All right, let's look at this one more time here.
At Hot Dog City.
He bites the top of the hot dog. He doesn't bite like he goes like top in on the hot. I don't know that that's what you want to do in the hot dog. And that's also not a hot dog. I think it's a sausage, by the way, which is awkward to say all this together because, there's the internet. But I think he's got to come from a different angle on that bite. I don't know.
It was an interesting angle. I don't think, me and Trace, we've got to eat a lot of hot dogs at the pass at the ballpark so far. I don't think we've ever held it up like that.
Oh, hold on a second. I got questions then. Does Trace eat the hot dog with a fork and knife?
Oh, here we go again with this.
I don't know. I don't know if we could be seated.
No, because it comes in a wrapper and I don't have to touch it.
Is that a wrapper? That little plastic
Yeah, you can hold the wrapper.
Coffee filter thing?
Yeah.
So you caress the hot
dog.
dog.
I've been at this a long time, Adam. I know how to eat without touching the food.
Who am I to tell you what to do?
Okay. All right. That's the mailbag segment.
Not done, though.
Nick, don't leave just yet. Adam, what's in the box?
It's a great question, Trace. Alumni Hall knows what's in the box. You can find them at alumnihall.com. We got a handful left here. Nick, right hand or left hand?
Give me the right hand.
Right hand is what he picked, friends. Here's the question. What is your favorite TV commercial jingle?
Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones. Probably the one that's like, no, I'll go with it. Like a Good Neighbor, State Farm is there. That's probably one of the best.
Okay. That's a classic.
I was thinking the one where it's like 1-800-EMPIRE. I can't. Sorry.
Yes, the floor cleaning company. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember it, but I like that one too.
Okay.
Adam?
I got a couple here, right? I mean, I always love the O'Reilly chant. I think every time I see O'Reilly, I say that, and somebody in the back of the car yells auto parts, right? You have to do that. This is more of a radio spot, so you all may know this. Anyone heard the 1-800 Cars for Kids commercial where they sing like 1-877 cars for kids? If you haven't heard that one, you'll know that one. I also like the I think it's the J.G. Wentworth. You need cash now, 837. Need my cash now, something like the J.G. Wentworth chant. I think always gets me.
Oh, I love that one.
What about Mr. Is Mr. Appliance still around there?
Mr. Appliance
or Appliance Depot?
Appliance Direct. That guy.
Appliance Direct. Is he still there?
He's still around.
I love that guy.
I don't really watch commercials. I just
hero. Of course you don't. I mean, this guy every week with the. I don't know, Nick. I don't know if you watch UCF all the time. He never answers the question.
Exposed me.
He's like Ted Roof on the witness stand. He just won't answer a question. It's unbelievable.
Oh wow,
Nick, let's conclude this show. How has your experience been so far with the Suns, and what are you most looking forward to here the rest of baseball season?
Yeah, well, first and foremost to both of you guys, I mean, it feels like just yesterday I was sitting at the interview table, and that whenever I got the email that I made it made me feel pretty accomplished. Working alongside Andrew Cherico like for the past year, and then seeing all the great work he did with the Suns, and just kind of wanting that for myself. And like I told you guys at the interview thing, I didn't even know that you were offering internships. I was going to ask to be a part of it anyways, and things just aligned itself, and I couldn't be more thankful to you guys. But it's been great so far. I know that when it comes to on-cams, like Trace has really been helping me improve. I think that I've been able to see it myself, and between the interviews with John Giuliano and Terry Mahajer, like during the 7th inning stretches, like my confidence has kind of went up, and I really can't wait to see what the rest of the Big 12 baseball season brings. I mean, doing some spaces at night, talking about UCF baseball and getting to talk to other beat reporters. It's just been really cool. And like the Sons of UCF, you guys have a great fan base. Like I'm just seeing it now, as the comments go through, but it's been so much fun to be a part of you guys, and just thank you again.
Well, you're crushing it. I expect on your next 7th inning stretch video, you to drink some milk, maybe. Maybe chug some milk.
Nick, who's your dream 7th inning stretch guest? You've had the guy who we named the baseball park after, and you've had the AD. Like, what's next?
You started strong in the 7th inning stretch game.
You're going to have to figure this out. Who's next on your list?
Well, me and Andrew were talking about it a little bit, Andrew Gregg, and I think that hopefully it happens. He went to a basketball game. Let's hope he comes to a baseball game. To get Scott Frost on would probably be the next biggest thing. But for next week on Friday, I already got a guy lined up. You guys mentioned him before. Not the Milk Maniac, sadly, but Knight and Nate will be on there.
I do like Knight and Nate. Robert's asking for your Venmo. I don't know if you want to give that out on the air or just DM him directly.
I don't know. Could that pay off if I put it on the air? No. I'll give it to him in the DMs.
Okay. All right.
Nick, you are crushing it. Ms. Williams, you've raised a good son, and we appreciate having him as part of the Sons of UCF. Anything else, Adam? We've got travel next week, some different faces in familiar places.
All that is true, yes, but we'll still have everything you need to keep up on UCF. So keep everything locked in here at the Sons of UCF.
And then remember, we're rolling out all of the offensive and defensive coaches' interviews over the next week as we get ready for the start of spring camp. For Nick Williams, Adam Eaton, I'm Trey Strelko. Go Knights!
Charge on!
Hey, this is Jimmy Bill, running backs coach. I want to say thank you guys for tuning in, the Sons of UCF, and I just want to take the time. Appreciate it.
Nice guy. I like that.
I like that.
That was a well thought out, like planned. Like a lot of people asking for the Venmo, Nick.
We're still live, Nick. So if you want to throw out the Venmo, and Robert's issuing a challenge for people to give you money.
Well, I don't want people to give me money. I feel bad about that.
Well, I'll give my Venmo then. Give me money.
Yeah, let me pull it up. So it's okay.
I can write. Just if you say it, I'll type it. Yeah.
Okay, so it's Nicholas, like Nicholas, and then a dash, and then Williams, and then another dash 300.
Nick trying to raise 300. Large. The telethon portion of Sons of UCF Live.
1877 cars.